Okay. This is all part of it. Oh, the vagina. Hey everyone, welcome to our channel. If you are new, hello, my name is Kristen and I just had a baby. Many of you have reached out across social media asking me to share my labor story with you, and I really wanted to share it because it was one of the most, or actually not one of, it was the most intense, incredible, crazy experiences of my entire life. I don't think anything will ever top it, ever, 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 ever. Now you mamas out there, I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about, and those of you who are currently pregnant or maybe thinking of getting pregnant in the future, I think you're gonna enjoy this story because I'm gonna get real. Speaking of Kai, she has got a poopy diaper. See us changing her in the back, and then I'm probably gonna feed her while we continue this video because that is my life. October 9th, I started to feel contractions, very mild ones, and I was actually not even sure if it was a contraction because I had never experienced them before. People told me it would be kind of like a period or menstrual cramp, and it kind of felt like that, very mild. The feeling wasn't consistent, and it would come and go, and then I'd go hours without feeling it. So that was pretty much the entire day. Things were going that way, and Sia and I were trying everything to get me into a more like active labor because I had gestational diabetes during my pregnancy, which basically means I had diabetes during my pregnancy. I didn't have it before, and I don't have it now. It's just something that can happen to pregnant women. Because of this, the baby could be bigger. Other things could get more complicated, so I planned an induction, and yeah, so it was set for October 10th, and I really wanted to go into labor naturally, so I did everything I could, and it started to happen, but it didn't happen fast enough. Baby feeding time. Hey, Kai. Are you hungry? This is Kai. If you hear, that would be her guzzling on the milk. So on Wednesday, October 10th, I went into the hospital as planned to get induced because up until that point I was having what was called Braxton Hicks contractions. So they mimic contractions. It gets your body ready for labor, but it isn't labor. So I had to be induced. So I went in early in the morning and I got a gel, which I'm not sure what the medical name is for it.
The injector is gently inserted to the vagina, and 3 to 5 milliliters of the gel is applied to the external part of the cervix.
It is a gel that's inserted into the vagina, and it softens the cervix, and it can either just prepare your cervix for the next step in the induction process, or it can actually just start labor on its own and you wouldn't need the next step. I laid on my back for about an hour so that it could get working, and then I was able to go home for about 5 hours. And during that time, I was getting contractions. They weren't crazy intense and they weren't consistent, but I was getting them. And after 6 hours passed, I went back to the doctors or to the hospital so they could assess me and see how everything was progressing. And I ended up having to get another gel because the first one didn't soften my cervix the way that they wanted it to. So they put another one in, and then the plan was to go home and come back the next morning and see where we're at. But if during that time I started to go into labor, come back earlier. And that exactly is what happened. I went into labor that night. You done? Are you done? Where was I? Oh yeah, so I got the second gel, and it didn't take long for things to start kicking in. I went home. Actually, I went to my mom and my dad's house because they live closer to the hospital than where Sia and I are living. Maybe within like an hour and a half of having that second gel, things started to really kick into gear. I'm having contractions, my mom's. vacuuming spider webs. Thanks, Dad. And I just got some ginger ale. And I started to get contractions that were more consistent, still far apart, not as long, but it was the beginning of labor. I had my birthing ball, so I was bouncing on that, and Sia was massaging my back during contractions to keep me sane and to help ease the pain, and he did an amazing job. And yeah, it just kept getting more intense from there. So, and what I mean by intense is they would get closer together, they would get longer, and they would feel a lot stronger. During my pregnancy, I would ask my friends who had had kids, what do contractions feel like? Like, I really wanted to know because I was a little worried about the whole process of labor and delivery. But they best described it, most people, like menstrual cramps, but times like a million. I would describe a contraction like when you've had the flu and you're constantly vomiting like every 20 minutes, and you get to a point where there's nothing left in your stomach and you're vomiting up bile, and your muscles in your stomach are getting super tense, and it hurts. It really hurts. The more you vomit, it hurts more and more because there's nothing in your stomach, and you're just feeling that the muscles just like squeeze and squeeze and squeeze. It's basically like that in your vagina and like lower area times a lot, like a million. And then add in the menstrual cramps too. It's really intense. I am not gonna lie, it is super painful, but it's also like a wave. So you only feel that in really intense pain at the peak of the wave, and then it goes down from there. And we're back. Wait. And we're back. It's crazy. Oh, it's like having two personalities. Before, when they weren't as intense, it kind of felt like you had to take a poop. And sometimes, you know, like you get crampy where you have to like pause for a second. You're like, oh my god, I really gotta poop, but I have a cramp. I hope I get through this. It's like that, but way more painful. And now it's just like its own category. It's like someone's inside twisting everything and stabbing me with a knife at the same time. God damn. There's no walk in the park. That is actually, I just walked in the park. But contractions are pretty damn painful is what I'm trying to say. But I can get through it. Breathing. I'm a warrior. Right, Mom?
Yes.
And you can handle it because, I mean, this is the natural cycle of life. Like, we were made, us women, to handle labor and contractions. And even though it does feel like you are dying, you can do it. You can do it, and it's pretty incredible what you can, the pain that you can tolerate and what you are put through when you're in labor, and how you can freaking like conquer it and just get through it, and you feel like a warrior. It really makes you stronger. Around like, I think it was like midnight. At this point, the time, I don't even know because I was so concentrated on getting through contractions that it's hard to like think of the timing of everything, but it was like around midnight. So my parents were kind enough to give us their bed. We went up to their room, and I laid in bed trying to fall asleep. And then about, I think maybe it was like 3 a.m. or so, maybe 2 a.m. The pain was so intense and contractions were a lot closer together and longer. At that point, I'd been in labor for like about 24 hours. Wait, we missed one of the best parts, when my water broke. So I was told that how your water breaks, like the way you see it in movies, that big explosion, it doesn't really happen, at least not very often. If not at all. Like some people, a lot of women their water doesn't even break. It has to be broken for them once they get to the hospital or whatever. But mine broke, full-on explosion in my parents' bedroom. It was crazy. Sia was massaging my back while I was going through a contraction, and we both heard a pop. I felt the pop, and then just explosion all over my parents' floor. It was crazy. So I was like, I can't do this. I can't stay here. Like I need something else. So I ended up going to the hospital. We all agreed it was the best decision. And I ended up getting an epidural. I was completely terrified of the needle. Like, I was like, bring on the contractions. I would rather, I prefer those than getting a needle. But like at the same time, I was so exhausted and I had such a long road ahead of me that I wouldn't have lasted. So I got through that fear and I got the epidural and it did not hurt. It didn't hurt, I promise you. I 100% promise you it felt like nothing, because they take a needle, they numb your back, and then they put in like the epidural type, like little tiny like tube thing that goes down your spine. It sounds awful, but it actually did not hurt. And oh my God, I felt so much better. I would recommend an epidural now to those who need it, who want to maybe get some relief, get some rest during labor, and don't feel bad about it, because damn, that felt good. It was such a relief. So for like about 6 hours, I was able to relax, get some sleep, and not feel the contractions anymore. After they gave me the epidural, they also gave me oxytocin. We produce oxytocin naturally, and that is what causes labor. But that is also what I needed to be induced, because I wasn't going into labor on my own at that point, and I needed to get this baby out. 6 hours later, epidural didn't work anymore. And now active labor is basically when you have a minute-long contraction every 3 minutes or 2 minutes, I think it was at that point. And it's intense. It is damn intense. I felt like I was being murdered, like brutally stabbed to death from the inside, like tortured, to the point where I was like, I don't think I can do this. It was intense, but luckily I had my midwives and Sia there encouraging me, coaching me, helping me get through it. Mind over matter really helps. It really does. I tried my best to really breathe through the contraction, to try not to be scared of it, to think it's not one more contraction, it's one less contraction that will get me close to meeting my baby. Then there was this point, about two hours into active labor, that I felt that she was coming out. I felt like her head, I was like, I need to push, I need to push. And I kept saying this, and at that point I was about 8 centimeters from the last time they checked, which wasn't too far from when I started feeling this urge to push. So they're like, not yet, not yet. And I kept saying, I need to push. I just felt it. I felt like I was ready. So my midwives were like, okay, let's do this. So they went down there to get everything ready. Sure enough, I was 10 centimeters and she was coming.
Amazing. Go, Kristen. That's the way, that's the way, that's the way. Awesome. You got it. You got breath and go again. Right in that spot. Right in that spot. Go. That's it. That's it. That's it. A little bit more. A little bit more. Yeah. Breath out. And in. A little bit more. You've got this. You've got this in you. Yes. So good. That's it, Kristen. You're moving your baby. So good. Lots of pressure. So good. Yeah.
And the pushing felt actually good, because basically how it works is during a contraction, you are pushing. So you have something to like put the contraction towards, to focus towards. So you're not thinking so much about the intense pain of the contraction, but of you're using it basically to push. And it felt a lot better. I got some sort of relief from that. But let me tell you, all of a sudden my contractions started slowing down. So they would happen maybe like every 4 to 5 minutes, it felt. And you can only push during a contraction. And I would get maybe like 3 pushes for each contraction. Your vagina feels like someone has taken a torch and is holding it there and lighting it on fire. And that is because the head is crowning. So the head of Kai was coming out And because you can only push during contractions, it was just sitting there, opening the vagina, and then you have to wait for the next contraction. So it just feels like stretching and burning. I know it sounds like torture, and it kind of felt like it, but it's at the same time, it's the most amazing experience, and I'm so thankful for all of this, that I've gotten to experience it. Her head was coming out, I could see it. He said it was crazy, but from that point to her coming out completely, it took one push. I just did one massive push as hard as I could, and she came out. They placed her on my chest, and it was amazing. Looking over at Sia and seeing him crying, and just like, we got through this, we did this. And now we have this little human that's a mix of two of us, this true example of our love, laying on my chest, healthy, breathing, and oh, the feeling was so amazing. Like nothing else. Just like, it felt like shock and love and just this overwhelming burst of emotion. At that point, she was still laying on my chest for probably like a minute or so, and we still didn't know she was a she. Then we're like, wait, what is it? So I held her up, and sure enough saw the vagina, and I was shocked because I was convinced she was a boy. So I was actually, in my head, I was like, where's her penis? But so happy that she was a she, or is a she. And I just remember holding her up and going, it's a girl, and oh, what a surprise. I'm so glad we waited, because it was the best surprise of our lives. And Sia cut the umbilical cord. They took her over to examine her, make sure she was good, and brought her back, placed her on my chest, and right away she climbed up to my boob and started breastfeeding, which was, again, one of the best feelings in the world, because I had been looking forward to breastfeeding before even finding out I was pregnant. That was something that I really looked forward to in life, to have that experience. I think it's so beautiful to be able to feed your child with your own body. I was so happy that I got to do a vaginal birth and feel it all, even though it was painful. The moment that they put Kai on my chest, it really, everything just disappeared. All the pain disappeared. Nothing else mattered.
Yeah. Spelling Kai.
K-A-I.
K-A-I?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. It's so pretty.
I finally had this baby that I'd been carrying in me for 9 months on my chest. I got to see what she looked like. I got to see that she was a she, and this immediate connection that I had with her. Oh, it's undescribable. And to feel her skin on my skin, and just to hold her and have her feed on my breasts, everything, the whole experience. Oh. So yeah, I had a tear because Kai came out like this with her hand up, and it tore me on the way out, so it was an internal 2nd-degree tear. So they sewed me up. It took probably about 40 minutes or so before they finished, and Kai got her vitamin K shot. They put some stuff in her eyes as well. I also got 2 shots of oxytocin in my thighs right after, pushing her out, which prevents hemorrhaging, possible hemorrhaging. One thing I asked for to my midwives prior to labor is I wanted to have a placenta tour. So basically what that is once you birth a baby, by the way, you have to birth the placenta, which is the organ that you grow in your body during pregnancy to help, basically it's the life source for the baby. So you have to birth that because it doesn't stay in your body afterwards. And I wanted a tour of it because it's such a really cool organ. I wanted to know more about it, and I wanted to see what I had created.
I can hold up your whole placenta.
Holy shit.
Which I'll kind of show you. So she was living in here. You see that?
Yeah.
So her umbilical cord feeding her. She's living in this cool bag of waters. This was her home for the last 40 weeks and 4 days.
They showed me the placenta and they went over like the functions of it and what it did. It was so cool. It was so cool. And some people take it and they'll bury it and plant a tree, or some people will take it and make it into pills and take those for to prevent postpartum depression. I decided that I didn't want to keep it. I just wanted the tour and to see what it was like. I actually have a photo of the amniotic sac and the placenta on my Instagram, so go check those out. I'll leave a link to my Instagram in the description box below, so you can just click that and head on over. I did lose a lot of blood during labor. Sia said it was like a crime murder scene in that room. There was a lot of blood, and I ended up having to stay extra time at the hospital because my hemoglobin was super low, to the point where I could have gotten a blood transfusion, but we decided to just have me stay longer, and then I would go on iron supplements. But it's been a hard journey postpartum, and I feel like no one talks about it, which is why I wanted to briefly go over that part of having a baby in this video. It's been just over 4 weeks since I gave birth, and it's been a struggle. It has been really hard to recover. And Kai is an amazing baby. She's super, super good. She sleeps well, she feeds well, she cries when she's hungry, needs a diaper change, and maybe has a little bit of gas, and that's it. I'm very lucky. But the recovery, my physical and emotional recovery, has been super, super difficult, and nobody is talking about postpartum. I looked on the internet, I looked for other videos. I just feel like no one prepared me for postpartum, and it's intense, and it can be intense, and has been for me. I have not been able to walk, really. I haven't been able to sit much. I'm actually starting to get in pain now. I've had to like fidget a bit throughout this video. But anytime I walk, even now at 4 weeks postpartum, I feel this like pressure and pain, and it just has in the vaginal area, and I just need to like lay down. So I haven't been able to really go out and walk my dog. I can't do that. So he has to do a lot of things for me, and he's been amazing. I had stitches and my body did not like them, so I had to end up going back to the midwives twice to get them out, which then caused more pain. And now it's eventually felt a little bit better, but then there's like other things going on down there that just does not feel comfortable. It's been really, really hard. And emotionally, your hormones are all over the place, and I've gone from laughing to crying to being angry and frustrated and irritated many times. I'm starting to, I feel better now. Definitely sleep deprived a little bit, but that's okay. Yeah, there's a lot that happens after giving birth, and it just doesn't end. You don't just bounce right back right away. It takes weeks and months to start feeling like yourself again, and no one again talks about it, but that's what happens. So I think we should be talking about it more, because I personally have felt like, is this normal how I'm feeling? Am I supposed to be this sore for this long? Am I supposed to emotionally feel this way? Because no one told me how I was gonna feel. Everyone talks about the pregnancy, they prepare you for that, they prepare you for labor, but no one talks about after the fact. And that has actually been the hardest struggle of all. So I hope more of us talk about it. I hope if you're watching and you've had a baby, please share your postpartum story below. Share your labor and delivery story too. But let's start talking more about postpartum and how it was for you to recover. Because I want to normalize this. I want people who are watching who may be pregnant or thinking about getting pregnant to know about the after part of having a baby as well. I'm so excited for what's ahead. I'm excited to be back making regular content for you. Sia and I have been planning some awesome stuff coming your way, and now we have a baby and we're gonna travel with her, and we're gonna share that with you. Family travel, how to do it, and the fact that you can travel when you have kids. Nothing can stop you.